Welcome back. So let us start with Batgirl Volume 6, Number 8, The Book of Shiva, Chapter 2. Writer Tape Romble, artist Isaac Goodhart, colors Mike Spicer. Batgirl continues to uncover her mother's untold history in Part 2 of the Book of Shiva. Sandra and Carolyn Wuson have taken to the streets of Detroit and become the champions of Chinatown. But what happens when they meet the deadly fists of Richard Dragon and the Bronze Tiger? Well, I'll tell you what happens is shipping. Shipping happens. Meanwhile, who is the dark shadow that stalks the young Shiva by day and haunts her dreams by night? And how do its revelations affect Cassandra Cain in the present? Get ready for the deadliest, most action packed issue of Batgirl yet. So I will say that I did, oh well, yes. We'll start with the cover. I forgot that one of the notes that I had here. I really like the cover, and I will agree. Well, with Donovan, he was mentioning last issue, but this issue as well. I do really like the art, but the cover here showing Richard Dragon and Bronze Tiger, as well as Carolyn and Sandra and Cass in the background, reading about it as well as listening to it. As we know, there's an audio book that accompanies it. I do wonder why everyone is looking at Cass here on the train. Someone who has ridden trains frequently. Um, I will say that the attendants don't know your name, they just know your seat number if you have one. And I've actually personally not ever had this sort of service. You kind of have to go to a special car in order to get the food. So, but I just wonder why everyone's looking at her, which is interesting. I don't know. So anyways, I will say that this is I did not care for this issue. I made a mistake about going on Twitter and kind of putting my opinions out there. I realized I should just stay in my lane, as you know, a Barbara Gordon fan, and I should not try to insert my opinions on this necessarily. I just did not care for it. I understand the purpose is to establish a relationship between Cassandra and Shiva, and Cass is getting to know her mother a bit more through this diary log as well as written log. And I guess I just feel like it's been done before. I mean, I was literally just recording the vintage stuff um, last episode where she's kind of tracking down information about who her mother is and whether her mother is Sandra and who is Sandra and all of that stuff. So yeah, I guess I'm just hoping to get back to Batgirl as in Cass. But instead of sharing a bunch of negative things, I thought that I would share, with his permission, just some text that I had with Donovan because he knows more about obviously Cass than I do. I consider him, Cass's number one fan, at least in my life, and had also done research on Shiva, so I will just go through there. And we had some similarities at least. So he says that a lot of this issue is fan service, reestablishing Shiva's history. The point is to better inform Cass about her mom. I asked, would she fight in a ring? Because that was something that I thought, oh, this is interesting that she's fighting in a ring. Potentially for glory is one thing, but for money is another, because I see some dollar bills there. I didn't necessarily think that that was a Shiva thing. But he says she has always historically craved a challenge. On the Batman universe, I, meaning Donovan, write about the differences and similarities to the old books. The colorful clothes she wears when she's fighting giant grasshoppers, that's straight from old issues of Richard Dragon. She's done a lot over the years. The major difference is that when we very first meet her originally, she mistakes Richard for the killer of her sister, which was later retconned to be David Kane. You're about to run into that in the old Cass book. Yep, I'm very close. I do wonder. But she really did used to fight crime with Richard Dragon and Bronze Tiger. The Kane retcon came up many years later. I asked if Kane would have approached her in the way that he does, which is odd out here. There he is. The Kane scene is a reinterpretation of an older scene from the 2000s cast book. I don't like the Kane retcon at all because it's absolutely gross. He kills Carolyn and coerces Shiva into having sex with him to sire Cassandra. So that was not a good. I said, "Ew, sounds like a dark romance." Donovan didn't like these things about the issue. The entire flashback posits Shiva as this dark, blood soaked, angry woman, violent character. That's really reductive. Shiva, for many years, was like an anime character, always relishing a challenge and being very gung ho, but she wasn't yearning for vengeance. After she avenged her sister's death, she just wanted to better herself. What I do not like about how Bramble writes this flashback is that he makes Shiva out to be a bad sister compared to Carolyn. That belittles her character. Even if you don't care about Shiva, remember what she told Cass after she brought her back to life. Quote, I'm a warrior, not a murderer, end quote. She's not supposed to be this two-dimensional. And I brought up this scene. I think it's that scene. Oh, look at there's the grasshopper. Um, was it here? Oh yeah, we're just like Richard and Bron Sugar are just like laughing around, and then she just gets really angry all of a sudden and kills the mood, and it's just a completely different tone and yelling. And I thought, what's going on here? So he said that he rolled his eyes at that. She would have rejected Richard's affections, which we see down there. We do see the shiver between Carolyn and Bronze Tiger. I'm sorry that that was short lived. Where did we? Nope. Oh, I do find this interesting. Like, I wonder if she kind of like Cass, if she even knows that Richard is kind of coming on to her, and or she does know, and she's just able to push it aside by pretending she doesn't actually know. Um, let's see. She would reject Richard's affections. She was generally asexual, but otherwise, her being grumpy is not how she used to be. In the old Dragon book, whenever Dragon called her up and said, we have a mission you want in, she'd be all, heck yeah, you know me, let's do it. It's like they made Leonardo into Raphael. So those are all coming from Donovan. A legit, dyed in the wool cast fan. Don't know if there's anything. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's another ew here. I didn't like how he reached for Shiva, David Kane. He reached for her, and talking about like the breeding situation and looking for someone of the importance of good stock. And I thought that's really quite gross that uh, you're doing that. And I did say that this is like woman in a refrigerator situation because killed the sister in order to further the other person's storyline. It is a slight difference or a slight spin on the theme in that it is a woman's role or character being furthered, but still reminded me of that. Um, Yeah, I think, the one vision that Cass had in the recent vintage issues that I covered, it was what, 66, 67, seems likely, right? That it was a business deal of sorts. That's kind of what it feels like, at least from here, but we'll see what happens if this continues. So I guess that, not enjoying it. Um, Not saying that it's bad necessarily. It's just like not what I was expecting when reading a Batgirl tale. And yes, I understand the purpose behind it. But I'm just looking forward to getting back to Batgirl stories, Cassandra Cain stories. So we'll see. So I think perhaps it's not fair to give it a rating. So I guess I won't. But yes, you can always send me your comments about this. And or if they're to Donovan, I can also pass them around. And now over to something I do have expertise in. Birds of prey. Boop, 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 boop. This is issue number 22, volume 5, On the Run, part 3 of 5. Writer Kelly Thompson, artist Sammy Basri, inker for pages 7 through 20, Vicente Cifuentes, and colors Adriana Lucas. Careful what you wish for, Barbara Gordon. You might just get it. The birds investigate the disappearance of one of their own, hoping it will lead them to both their missing comrade and the truth about the mysterious villains attacking from the shadows. Meanwhile, the Shadow Army makes another big move with Oracle on the explosive receiving end. So, FML. We find out that it is Velvet Tiger. Remember last issue? I was like, it looks like Velvet Tiger, but I'm hoping that it's not her and it's somebody else. I was not that lucky. There's got to be a better classic character that has gone up against Barbara that could be used. This is not the first time that she has been brought back. I don't know. Is that when we think of Batgirl rogues, Barbara Gordon rogues, Velvet Tiger is the first one that comes to mind? And even though I gave Donovan some props previously, I now have to put him in timeout because he thought I would be excited to see her. So apparently he doesn't know me at all because people, who've been on the show know that I dislike Velvet Tiger and I have seen her in many incarnations. Remember the Hawk and Dove that I did with Shagalicious? So here we go. Yeah. It depends on the era as to whether she has these teleportation powers. That was another reason why I was thrown off. She didn't fight really during the Burnside run, and she was not able to hold her own against Barbara via fighting in that run. So it was that way. I was thrown off just to say that I really didn't think I was in denial that that was Velvet Tiger. But it was still surprising that she was able to give Cass a run for her money, if only for a short time. And friends, let us remember that apparently Barbara kills Lonnie in this exact run, which started the whole thing, this Barbara Gordon situation. I guess it was the second arc because the first arc was about Sin. I am not sure what, and actually I don't know where this is, what Kelly Thompson, the writer, is referencing with Amanda Wall. Oh, actually, it is down here. Amanda Waller and shoot, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Oh, yeah. A power she used to have, but we haven't seen in some time. There you go. This is Barbara talking about Velvet Tiger. Maybe something to do with Amanda Waller and her Amazo robots. I'm so out of like the comics thing with the exception of Barbara that I just don't know what that is. So if you have any idea, friends, you can write in to let me know. I'm surprised there's like not an editorial thing like C dot 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 because that would be nice. I like seeing Barbara process through the potential leadership of the villainous group, as well as trying to sort out how everyone knows each other. It's just nice to see processing. This is something that I applaud my students for when it happens. And I think it's good to do that as a teacher to applaud processing and like if they're doing it silently or they're like talking to me about it or it's out loud in front of the class. Because I think sometimes students get embarrassed if they take a while to answer questions. And I'm very patient in the classroom, just give them the time to kind of think and process through. And when they are verbalizing and going through the thought process of like all these things, and this is the answer because of that, I'm like, well done, good job, like processing that and everything. So when I see that sort of thing in a comic, I also really love that because I want to see that in real life. And I think that sometimes people too, when they're asked a question, they immediately dive in. And sometimes I think you need to take your space and consider what your answer is going to be before you start answering. So there's praise for pausing and reflecting and then going into it. The scene, oh, I am screen sharing, hopefully. Actually, I don't think I am. Hold on. Okay. So I was here. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to talk about the cover anyway, since we're here. She's got her tech gadgetry on that she's kind of able to do digital things as if they are there in the real world. More of a full body, but not a full body. So still hashtag Carolyn knows, and we see the Oracle as well. While it is tense, where are we here? Yeah, I like this argument. I don't know if like is the right word, but I appreciate it. That it's believable. I think it was inevitable that this would happen. Um, I do agree that Barbara should have led with "I'm so happy that you're safe." It was a bad idea, but it was a bad idea to boom tube into the office. And I think the reason why I feel like this was inevitable is that there has been some confusion as to leadership and lines and things like that. And the most well-oiled of machines, the most beautiful relationship or friendship is still going to have some confusions or conflict if somebody thinks that another person is overstepped. And so Babs thinks that she is the one who is most capable of making decisions because she can see the whole picture from the outside, being at mission control. But Dinah's the one in the field, and so she knows the things that are happening in real time. So she thinks that she should make the decision. So yeah, those are two different worldviews that are going to inevitably clash. And here we have it. And so this is the argument about, not following orders, which we also see that's just a typical Barbara and Dinah situation, or I don't know, a little nuance or quirk, I guess, in the Birds of Prey family. Sayla being here. Oh yeah. Let's see, where are we? Up? There we go with the black cat. Is interesting and inevitable. As I said, that all call for other members to stay on the bench and stay away was not going to keep people away. We find out that Golden Lion is her father, which I don't think we knew during that second arc, but I could be wrong. It's been a little bit of time, but it seemed like it was a shock to her as well as she was narrating that. And she impresses Barbara with her detectiving on her own with little resources. And so if you can impress Barbara with such things, then I think you are really in. And then, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, this is really hitting Cass, I think, the most because of how close Cassandra is with Barda. And then I mean, this was the concern, right? You have Barda, basically a new god, being, I mean, she's not technically, but wait, is she a new god? Oh, think about, oh, she is technically a new god. Yeah, fighting against the team, but controlled by someone else. This was the big concern. And I mean, it looks pretty cool though, but it's also, I feel like that's assault of some kind since Ink is controlling her. So it also feels very dirty. Barbara getting hit through the drone. It's always interesting when digital things kind of hit you. I've seen this weird Instagram reel of definitely it's not an American film, but someone called somebody else and it looked like it was maybe 60s or 70s. Someone called somebody else, the other person answered. The first person shoots a gun through the receiver and that other person died. And so this is what this feels like in that, a drone is knocked down and it gives feedback enough to knock Barbara out. And then, yes, we end with this cliffhanger of, I mean, how many times? How many times has the Birds of Prey headquarters gotten blown up? It just the hits keep on coming, I guess, for wherever the location is for the Birds of Prey. I think I'm still going to give this, yeah, 9 out of 10. I think we're still, I feel like in setup mode. We're getting the player pieces, but we didn't really see any villains with the exception of Barda. So he's still that's still a big question. Velvet Tiger, unfortunately, that docks a whole point from from my score. But yes, we are going to see how this continues. So there you go. Okay. We are now wrapping this episode up. Oh, anime watch list. It has been so long. So I finally watched season 2 and season 3 of Blood of Zeus. I think a couple years ago I talked about Blood of Zeus season 1, and then season 2 came out, I feel like maybe 2 years after that one. And then I was just kind of behind. And then 3 happened recently. And I thought, well, might as well do 2 and 3. So, season 2 dives deeper into the divine drama, betrayal, and power struggles among gods and mortals. After Zeus's death, the throne of Olympus is up for grabs, and chaos brews as contenders emerge, including Hades, who manipulates events from the shadows. Hades resurrects Seraphim, using him as a pawn to retrieve the Elysian Stone, a powerful artifact that can crown the next ruler of Olympus. Meanwhile, Heron grapples with his destiny and grapples with his destiny and the burden of being Zeus's son. Gaia, the primordial goddess, warns that only Heron and Seraphim can save the world, but their paths are anything but aligned. Second season introduces new characters like Persephone, Demeter, and Typhon, and explores the tragic love story between Hades and Persephone. As tensions rise, Gaia resurrects Typhon to punish the gods for their arrogance, setting the stage for an even greater conflict. And I will say that in no other circumstance do I ship Hades and Persephone because it was assault. He stole her. But here it is done with such love. Like the first time we see them, I was like, oh my gosh, she doesn't want to leave the underworld. She actually loves him. And then they give the backstory. And I thought, that's really lovely. Maybe I do want to read a book if it were reimagined like this. So I did find one book. I think it's called Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. I've yet to read that. It's my last on a 6 pile TBR that I got from the library. But yeah, we'll see where it's not, you know, stealing or raping. This was lovely. And they're kind of phrases that the phrase that they said to each other was, if two souls are meant to be together, they will be. And this kind of carries through. And I held out hope that it would be okay for them. But I will say Demeter was petty as all get out. Because some things she caused some major issues because she just wanted her daughter to herself. This is very interesting. And then season 3 brings the mythological saga to a thunderous conclusion, blending epic battles, emotional reckonings, and divine redemption. Picking up after Gaia unleashes the Titans, Heron survives Hades' betrayal and joins forces with his estranged brother Seraphim. Despite their past conflicts, the two must unite to stop Typhon and Cronus, who threatens to annihilate both gods and mortals. Cronus, by the way, voiced by Alfred Molina. Their uneasy alliance becomes the emotional core of the season as they confront not only external enemies, but also their own inner demons. Meanwhile, the gods of Olympus are fractured and vulnerable. With Zeus gone, they must learn to cooperate or face extinction. The season explores themes of unity over power as the gods realize that survival depends not on dominance, but on solidarity. And the final episodes are a visual spectacle. Titans clash with gods, ancient secrets are revealed, and sacrifices are made. The series ends on a bittersweet but satisfying note, with Heron and Seraphim's bond reshaping the future of Olympus and humanity alike. And that is on Netflix, and they range from like 25 to 35 minutes. So I'd give it a shot, starting with season 1 and going through. It is violent, just FYI. But if you like mythology, I think that you would like that. So, okay, let's check this out. So we will go on to Stella's Dungeon of Smut. That's brought to you by Hornacek's Fried Calamari Sticks. Power through a lot. That's, I guess, I do have more time on my hands with all of that. I guess it's all the Junes. Wow. Revenge. Oh no, I did. Okay. Are we ready? First Time Caller by BK Borison, which takes place in Baltimore. And it's similar to Sleepless in Seattle. So if you like that, I recommend it. Give that 4 stars. Uh, Breaking Rules by Anastasia White. I'm frustrated by because it ended on, it is a part one of a part two. So it does not have a happy ever after. And literally, like the last scene before the epilogue, they're like together, they love each other, they say, I love you, they're having sex. Then there's the epilogue, which is 18 months, I can't remember, like a year and a half later, and they had broken up somehow. She had broken up with him. And I'm like, okay. And I think the second part comes out in August, so now I've got to wait on that. Frustrating. Um, Summer People, let's see. Prodigal Son was okay. Summer People was okay. Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, I really liked. So I recommend that one. Lights Out, I don't recommend. I don't recommend. So I read a couple, two of them that I'll talk to you about. This is being one of them that are just, they're hot. Ooh, an ant. They're really big now. And they're big on the TikTok, they're big on the Instagram, and I want to let you know if it's worthwhile or not. And this is not my typical like tropey thing anyways, because it's both dubious consent as well as consensual non-consent. There's some stalking in there. I didn't like it because it just seemed unbelievable how their relationship even started, because it was just like all of he was basically she followed him. He's like a cam guy. You either know that or you don't. I'm not going to explain that. And he couldn't do, it was an interesting campsite because apparently if you did too much you'd be banned, but she had wished, she talked to, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to be careful here because I know that there's a wide range of audience on this, but basically she asked her person that she was hooking up with at the time if he would do this sort of like come into her house with a mask and dot dot, and he's like, no, and you know what, I've seen somebody else. But then his roommate gets wind of it. His roommate is the cam guy, and then he decides to break into her house at one point, film one of those videos, and she finds out later on. And he sets up a video camera to watch her, but not watch her. So he has ethics, I guess. But then I would say that this all starts like very closely afterwards. Then she wants to find out who this is because he's obviously stalking her. And then he picks her up one day at work. She's a nurse, and then all of a sudden, like she's doing stuff to him in the car, and I thought, this, where is this coming from, where they're just going? And then they're like together immediately after that. And that was, I think, 100 pages in. And typically for romances, you are waiting 150 pages for the first kiss. So it was just unbelievable in my mind. I know that we suspend disbelief for these romances, but it loses me if I can't really, like, emotionally, it doesn't make sense for me. Um, Pinky Promise was okay. Kissing the Rival was okay. Gloves Off by Stephanie Archer. I recommend that. This is book four. My favorite one is the first one, Behind the Net. And then the other two were like, they were okay. I enjoyed them. But this one I really liked. So I do recommend that. Fixing to Be Mine by Lyra Parrish and Bless Your Heart by Lyra Parrish, I also recommend. But the last thing I want to talk about is this. Kiss of the Basilisk by Lindsay Straub. Lindsay Straub says about this book, I'm told it's best to go into this book with absolutely no knowledge of its contents. As such, you'll find no blurb or summary here. Instead, I will leave you with some sincere advice. Buckle up. The Split or Swallow series is unlike anything you've ever read before, and you may not read anything like it ever again. Say goodbye to the person you were before this book, and once you've read it, hand it to your friends so they can read it too. And boy, do I wish that I knew someone who read this. So I went in this just like with Lights Out, that it was going to be nuts. I've only heard like some things about it, and it was just going to be bad. I was going to speed read it, and I was speed reading. But then it got to a point where actually I started to slow down because I did not expect to like that as much as I did. story wise, world building wise, plot wise, much stronger than Lights Out. I thought that was really interesting, to be honest. There are some things that still annoyed me. For example, when the lead character, the female character, is with the male character and they kind of undergo these trials and things, then all of a sudden she's having this like this crisis, like, you should be with this other person, maybe you shouldn't be with me, are you sure you want to be with me? I'm like, he's told you that he wants to be with you, can we not do that? And that happened a couple of times, and I thought, that's, everyone has, I think, moments of self-doubt, but that is not the time, so that became frustrating, and it became a love triangle. But another one of my critiques is just that I did not buy in as much to the secondary leg of the triangle, which was a prince, a human prince, just because he did not have a lot of page time. So more was developed with the Basilisk Prince. So yeah, I don't think she even had sex with the human prince until like in the 400 pages. And it was a 500-page book. So that gives you a sense. I will say that it is there's a kind of a cliffhanger, very minor. So there's a second part coming out in November. I'm very excited about it. And split or swallow, the entire time I thought it was spit or swallow, so I did not read correctly. I don't know necessarily, I don't understand what that means, so I'll give you the overall. I could tell you so many things about this, but basically it is this world, a world was ruled by the basilisks, and they are snake people but also have a human form, and then humans came to them, and of course, there was a war, and somehow the humans were able to subdue them. So there's kind of a social hierarchy there where the basilisks are lower, and are kind of servile to the humans. So the human monarchy is looking for, they have a prince, and they are looking for a bride for the prince. And the princesses undergo trials basically in order to be picked. So if you like the book called The Selection, this is the reason why I initially didn't want to read it. I was like, I read The Selection. I was forced to read it and I did not care for it, where there's a group of young ladies vying for a princess hand. So it's kind of like that. But sex is so valued in this culture that they, each of the people that are the women, the girls that are up for being the princess, married to the prince, they are paired up with a basilisk teacher, because these basilisks are just very skilled in the sex. And so there's lots of sex happening. And our lead, female lead, Temperance, goes by Tem. She is a chicken farmer. And so she's very low on the social hierarchy in the human world, and she ends up getting the basilisk prince, and he is, well, they end up falling in love, and and of course, we're back, and of course there's not a lot of sex between them. First they kind of escalates and everything as they have a connection, but then there's conflict because she shouldn't be with the basilisk. I think I'll just keep it like that, which seems pretty tame, but she finds out more about her stuff, about herself, like her past. And there's just some really interesting and wild sexual things that happen. And Donovan asked me, why did you like it as much as you did? And I did say about like the plot and the story and the world building. I appreciated that. Like I felt like it was well thought out, because there were things that were mentioned. I was like, are you going to explain this? And then the author did. So, I appreciated that. But one of the reasons why I really liked it is that each time I encountered something wild, like the first thing, this will cap off. The first wild thing I encountered is that after a joint, session, not together, but at the same time, he gathers his what and creates a claw of sorts, and then inserts the claw into her, and then it vibrates or throbs whenever he thinks of her. So that was the first wild thing that happened. And I thought, okay, nothing can be more wild than that. And then something more wild than that happened. So just the sheer escalation of, yeah, I don't know. I was sending little audio journals to Donovan so that he could at least be along for the ride. So I kind of recommend The Kiss of the Basilisk, but also I don't, I mean, only for certain people. But I'm looking forward to the second one. Let me know if you want to know any other deets. Can email me privately and I will let you know. And so I'll now move from my Dungeon of Smut and go to my literature recommendations. And okay, talked about Neverland. Nothing More to Tell by Karen McManus. Recommend. And I'm now caught up on all Karen McManus novels, so I'm happy about that. I recommend her for if you like mystery, technically YA, but hopefully you are not YA snobs that you don't think it's good enough, but I recommend it. The Likeness by Tana French, which was a sequel to In the Woods. And I told you I did not like In the Woods, but this follows Cassie and I like her way more than Rob, and it was way more interesting. So I do recommend that one. And then Hera by Jennifer Saint, which I gave 5 stars. I really appreciate that. There was a lot of pressure, I think, on Saint to deliver on that because writing about Hera, who is such a complex and oftentimes terrible character in myth because of the things that she does to the women that are being raped by her husband, it's hard. Like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to make her sympathetic, or what's that going to look like? But I thought that it was really well done and imaginative and kind of going through many eras of pre Olympian, during the height of the Olympians, as the Olympians were kind of going down, and worship for them are going down and things like that. So I highly recommend that. And then just finished today Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf by C.L. Clark. If you're fans of Arcane, I think give that a shot as kind of Mel is young. She's like 13, 14. So this is pre her exile. It actually ends with her exile. If you remember Mel talking about her mother sending her off to Piltover. And it's just like, well, it's obviously focused on Ambessa, but you see Mel and you see Kino, her brother, as well, and kind of setting that up, and also the Black Rose. So getting some insight into that too. So recommend all of that. Okay, well, remember you can send any questions or comments to backrolltoracle@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter @backrolltoracle. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version and follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. Support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. And once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Backroll to Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And next time, I'm not sure if it'll be Birds of Prey or if it'll be Batgirl, but we shall see. And I will have, I think, some details from my workshop, as well as a trip to T-Ticket to visit and hang out with my friend Harry and see some fireworks. So hopefully there'll be some fun little anecdotes there. I think I'll make him watch. I've heard good things about K-pop Demon Hunters, so I think I'm going to make him watch that. But we'll see. You know how hijinks always ensues. But stay safe out there, especially, well, yeah, just with all the stuff. Go to a peaceful protest and be safe with the heat as well. And yes, until next time, fly on, bats lovers.